the Aboriginal channel. This episode will be part one to coronavirus multifaceted. And basically what that means is that this whole thing accomplishes a few or many things allegedly for those who caused it. So the first facet of this that we'll come to understand by the end of this video, it starts with right here, the baby boomers, where it says, are the demographic cohort following the silent generation, which is our grandparents basically, and preceding Generation X. So the generation is most often defined as individuals born between 1946 and 64. And there's 76 million Americans born during this time frame in America. So it's not predicated on the baby boomers. I just wanted to point out that 76 million are in America. And one more instance here in the baby boomers page on Wikipedia. On demographics down here, it says that the age wave theory suggests an economic slowdown when the boomers started retiring between 2007 and 09. Now, what was in 2008, the recession, right? And we just gained insight on what was probable to have caused it, the age wave theory, which is at the top of the facets. That's why I'm starting with it in episode one, because as of right now, we have a major economic slowdown, and it is directly connected to the age wave theory. Before I go on to show Aboriginals where we fit into the age wave theory, I got to point out that right here it says that as a group, baby boomers were wealthier, more active, and more physically fit than any preceding generation, and were the first to grow up genuinely expecting the world to improve with them. However, this generation also has been criticized often for its increases in consumerism, which others saw as excessive. So that's why these people, or that generation, is directly connected to the economy, their increase in consumerism. But going into how we fit into this, I'm going to take you through 5, 6, or 7 different major cities across the country and show you a contrasting in numbers, which hopefully gives you the understanding of why this is in episode one, starting with New York City, right here on its Wikipedia page, which I love to refer to. It says in 1940, the white population in New York City was 93%. And in 2010, it was 44%. So it dropped almost 50%, while the so-called black, so-called African American population was 6% in 1940, and it's 25% in 2010. So that's why 2020 census is so important, because they're going to see a whole nother count, a whole nother drop, a whole nother percentage increase on one end and decrease on another. Now look at the Hispanic or Latino. It was 1% in 1940 and then 28% in 2010. Thus, the reason for so much ICE from New York, we're going to move over to Boston. Right here on Boston, Massachusetts Wikipedia page under demographics, it says that in 1940, the black population, or so-called black population, was 3%. In 2017, it was 23%. In 1940, the white population, or non-Hispanic whites in Boston, was 96%. In 2017, it was 43%, then half drop. And again, you see the Latino or Hispanic were less than 1%, and then now they're 20%. Moving up to Seattle, Washington, the white population in 1940 was 96%. In 2010, it's 69%, almost a 30% drop. And for some reason, in 1940, it was the black population was only 1%, but it's now, or in 2010, 7.9%. The Latino and Hispanic population is also on the rise there. Moving down to New Orleans, Louisiana, there you have in 1940, 69% white, but in 2010, you had 33% white, more than half a population decrease. You had 30% so-called blacks in New Orleans in 1940, and then 60% in 2010, 100% increase. And we're going to move over to Los Angeles, where the white population in 1940 was 86%, and in 2010, it dropped to 28%, almost over a 50% decrease. A major decrease, and not too big of an increase for the black population. However, the Hispanic population there went from 7% in 1940 to 48% in 2010. Moving over to Chicago, The white population in 1940 in Chicago was 91%. In 2010, it's 44%. The so-called black population was 8% in 1940. In 2010, it's 32%. The Hispanic population was 0.5% in 1940, and it's at 28% in 2010. So understand how these numbers is going. Now, one exception to the rule is in Miami, where the white population in 1910 was 58%, and 100 years later in 2010, it's 72%. The so-called black population was 41% in 1910, and is only 19% in 2010. Now, the biggest increase happened in the decade between 1920 and 1930, when so many different things were going on in the state of Florida as far as race riots. So we can understand why the population of blacks decreased in between that decade. And this is only one out of 7 major cities across the country that show the so-called Latino, Hispanic populations on the rise and the white American population on the decrease. So it wouldn't surprise me if this has something to do with the advent of Corona. As a recap, I want to say that the boomers, who were criticized for being major consumers, slowed the economy, in part causing the 2008 recession, because older retiring people don't spend a lot of money because they're not making the same amount of money. So that was going on in 2008. So what is going on with the boomers right now, 12 years later? That's the question. Now, I'll go on to say that the boomers comprise most of the major league sports owners, all the high-ranking political members, high-ranking so-called religious members, most world rulers, including the 45th president, a multitude of CEOs, including high-ranking members of the media, the judicial institutions, and the heads of the multitude of human services departments throughout the country, and the 1%. All these people are baby boomers, and they have all seen the numbers that I put into this video. They've seen more numbers than I put in the video, of course. I can come up with different conclusions in my brain to why the baby boomers are connected to the coronavirus, but I just wanted to put those numbers out there to show how the numbers is going, and they more than likely play a role in this coronavirus. For an example, a few weeks ago, there was an article put out on Newsweek.com that says Boomer Remover, a mean nickname for the novel coronavirus COVID-19, began trending on Twitter early Friday. The term has appeared in more than 65,000 tweets and references the higher mortality rate among older people infected with COVID-19, particularly among people over 60, including the boomer baby age cohort, approximately between the ages 56 and 74. When you look at another article, it says that so-called African Americans are dying of coronavirus at higher rates. Preliminary data shows. Says the new coronavirus is killing African Americans at a higher rate than the U.S. population at large, according to preliminary numbers from Louisiana, Michigan, and Illinois that officials say point to disparities in health and healthcare access. Now, I'm not going to go through this whole article. It's online if you want to get to it. But basically, I want you to think about what I showed you about the numbers of the population between the races, how the white population is going way down and the so-called black and Latino is going up. And then right here you got where a boomer, Madonna, is saying that the coronavirus is the great equalizer. She goes on to say that it's the great equalizer, and what's terrible about it is what's great about it. One more correlation to this right here is that the most striking photos from the white supremacist Charlottesville protests. A group of racist protesters gathered in Charlottesville with tiki torches chanting, "You will not replace us." So now you know what that meant. It says organizers affiliated with the white nationalist alt-right called the march in advance of a larger protest scheduled for Saturday to protest the removal of a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee in a park in Charlottesville. But now we know what they meant when they said we will not replace them, because they looking at the numbers through the history books, which has all been a lie. So therefore, if it's a lie, then what's the truth? If it's a lie, then what's